My current troop structure is 1 cavalry march, 2 infantry marches, 1 leadership march, and 1 archer march. Why is that important? Because the foundation for this setup was made literally 4 years ago, and I've stuck to it ever since. Now, is that a good thing? Perhaps if the better choices were made, then yes. But in my own experience, I did not do, or I should I say, I did not age well. Because at the time, the best march was Martel Richard. So there was no crystal tech, there was no armaments, there was no equipment. It was really, really a different game back then. And I stuck to the same structure that I've started with. And in the end, it hurt me. I think it hurt me because the inspiration for this video came when I was looking at Hermann Prime and I was deciding on to shelf Trajan in order to make like a second Archer March. And in realization, I saw that I have to get more equipment again. And getting my current Archer March took me some time, and I'm still far from finished, as you can see. Then I have to get the armaments as well. And of course, like the time needed to do that, all of that, and get to work with Hermann is such a long, long time that I don't think it's worth it. Like, I think the best solution for me is to stick with this still and try to make it work as best as possible. Now, the reason why I made a video, and I'm gonna explain even more, is so you don't make my mistakes. And in the early game, nowadays, people tell you just do not invest in commanders, like maybe work on YSG and that's it. Just hope that you get lucky from the gold keys and you can use commanders like Martel, Cao Cao, and Tatmos. But I haven't seen many comments about equipment. And I think equipment is vastly more important than it meets the eye in the early game because the early game decisions alter your end game experience. And I find it to be very true. So I want to steer you guys into direction that you want to play in the end game. And you can see now the end game archers are mostly cavalry, archers, and some infantry. So the current setup I use is outdated. But for me to switch, I can still switch, but the amount of time it's going to take me to switch, I don't find it to be worth my time. So I would rather make all the adjustments I can to make this work as best I can. Does that make sense? Right. So for me, if I had everything on my disposal, like imagine it's a Grand Prix, and I can take whatever I want. And for 5 marches, like most free to play and low spenders have, I would pick 2 cavalry marches, 1 infantry march, and 2 archer marches. Simply because I believe, and it's no secret really, that the archers and the cavalry marches just offer more than infantry. Like infantry is the slowest troop type out of the three, and it generally lacks the punch compared to the cavalries and the archers. So for that reason, I think having an infantry march is important, but having more than 2 at best is detrimental to your account. I think 2 is the most you should use as an infantry player, or I should say infantry marches, and then you can use up to 3 either cavalry or archer marches, and if you plan to use 6 or 7 marches, then you can implement Trajan. But only if you have him to this time. You don't really want to work on Trajan now. And the marches I will use in that 5 march setup are Nevsky Joan. I would use Huo with William. I would use Scipio with Liu Che. And I would use something that's actually not been tested yet, but we've seen Zuge and Hermann. That works really well. But I would also use Boudica with Ashurbanipal. I think Ashurbanipal has really good synergy with Boudica, and I think it's going to be a better YG alternative if I have everything in my disposal. Now, obviously, if you don't have Ashurbanipal, which none of us do, I think YG is still a very, very good option. And the reason why I think Ashurbanipal is going to work with Boudica is because I think it fits the commander mold that I like to put commanders in. Like Boudica is the stat stick single target commander. Ashurbanipal is the AoE DPS, and yeah, he brings that 5 target AoE. He brings the stats, also the same stats apart from attack that Boudica does. You make you deal more skill damage and you take less normal damage. And of course, the expertise is a lottery, but looks really fun to use. So those are my 5 marches I will use. I had everything at my disposal, and it's vastly different from my own. But like I said, this setup was shaped in the early game of my rock playing adventure. So I will steer you towards making sure that you work on equipment that you want to have in the end game. Now, commanders are the variable. You can change commanders, but they're always going to be, the same unit type. So if you have the equipment and the armaments, you can always work on the next best commander in that troop type, and you will always have the equipment and the armaments to back it up. So for that reason, I really truly believe that your early game choices alter your end game experience as a player, and I would say it's almost make or break on how successful are you going to be in the game. Now, obviously, if you're a spender, now this could be a bit more like less risky, because if you don't have the adequate equipment or the armaments, the crystal tech makes up for it. So if you're a spender, you have a bit of a less, bumpy road ahead. But if you are not a spender, I think in the early game, I think the best things you can do is work on multiple equipment sets, even if it's just epics and blues and whatnot. Over time, you will upgrade it. And by the time you reach Season of Conquest, ideally, I think you should work on YSG so you can have one really good expertise commander and then go from there. Once you reach KVK3, then you decide at the time what is the next commander to work on. You always want to work on the latest commanders. So for example, if you just came here to KVK3 and you have the option between going for Boudica or Hermann, and the easy choice here is Hermann, not because Boudica is bad, but because Hermann is the latest best thing in the game, apparently, for the open field fights. And like if you compare the commanders, you can see why. And Boudica is single target, Hermann is AoE. He brings a lot of things on the field that are relevant not just for yourself, but for the whole kingdom. So that's always what you should have in mind, is which commander do I work on that's going to benefit my kingdom the most, and not just yourself. So this is why you see marches like Attila Takeda get really frowned upon and really are not advisable for people to work on, especially now. Like, they had their era of success. But if you compare a field of bunch of Attila Takedas in their prime to like all the meta commanders right now with all the AoE, which side do you think will win? Let me know down in comments. So yeah, learn from my mistakes, and that is also the main reasons why I made this channel, is to showcase my journey and to show you the mistakes I made along the way in all of my days of playing. And if you guys found it helpful, if you guys have something to add on, I'll be more than welcome to read the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then please do so. It helps me a lot. Like the video. And if you guys want to know more about Hermann, I made a dedicated short about his skills, his best pairings, his best talent build, and equipment to work on. And you can click it in right here. And I will see you in the next one.